Let's welcome Mr. Raphael on stage.
Hello, bonjour, 大家好. Thank you to UNESCO, distinguished guests, fellow speakers, all of the organizers, friends, and last but certainly not least, to a few of my students who traveled from Beijing to be here. Thank you. I sincerely appreciate you showing your support. So by a show of hands, how many of you attended university outside of your home country? An exchange program? Anybody? Hands real high. Let me see you. Okay, good. So you're a product of some of the things that I'll be sharing here shortly. I am from the United States, but many years ago I had the opportunity to study abroad in Brazil, and that sparked a fire in me. And there's a quote that says, "Education is not filling a bucket, but lighting a fire." And that international experience has been one of the things that has really shaped how I view the world, shaped how I view where I'm from, and hopefully provides context for how I contribute to who we are in a global sense. And so the global value of education is something not that I just want to do as a profession, but it's something that I've been able to live and benefit from in my personal and professional life. So quickly, I'll talk about 5 things that I think are benefits of global education. And for those that raised your hand, hopefully one of these things will resonate with you. The first is that it promotes intellectual and academic curiosity. When people study abroad, they have the opportunity and they're expected to ask questions. Many of the times when we work together, we can't always ask those questions about culture, about daily living, about philosophy, about different theories that happen outside of the context where we grow up. But when we study in China, and when my students study in China, they have the opportunity to learn about a rich culture, about the past, the present, and future, to help be informed about China in ways that I think allows for the narrative to be broader than what the news may show, broader than what books might even teach us, but people being able to feel the culture and talk about it in an academic setting is critical. It expands the knowledge base and the opportunity for discovery in ways that are unimaginable. I see students come to China and they think they're going to experience one thing and they walk out going, man, China is historical, but it's the future, it's the now, it's the then. And they come out of all of these different programs, NYU Shanghai, the Schwarzman Scholars Program, Nottingham, Ningbo, the Hopkins Center in Nanjing, all of these different programs. These students are transformed by living, breathing, and studying China with their Chinese classmates who also become educators in and of themselves. And I think that exchange is really critical. The other thing that it does is it's a catalyst for innovation. Sitting in a classroom, being able to talk about what happens as a result of ideas and philosophies coming together and being able to think through that and have a filter for what that means for the world is extremely critical. The second is harnessing the power of immersive and immersive learning and living. I do think that immersion is a high-impact practice, and there's no better way to have people from around the world discuss things than to have one group go to another part of the world and have that group come to a different part of the world and sit and be able to reflect on what it means to really immerse yourself in a culture. And this goes beyond food. This goes beyond going to celebrations. But it really means diving into somebody else's context and also putting yourself in their shoes to really seek to understand. And one of the things that I said in the video that I think is critical is that if we can understand each other more, I think the world could actually be a better place. We wouldn't solve all of the problems that are in the world, but we could have better understanding and guidance on how we navigate those different challenges. The second thing is that, immersive learning gives an opportunity for real-life context. So I live in China. I've lived in China for almost 7 years, and my son, every single day, he wants noodles in the morning, noodles for lunch, and noodles for dinner. And I don't stand in his way. I most of the time allow that. But what he's done, we were home this summer, and he said something that was critical, and that's when I knew that immersion is real. We were home, and 3 weeks before, in the United States, and 3 weeks before we left, he said, "Dad, I'm ready to get back to China." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because that's home." And this is a kid who's grown up there, who speaks the language, who embraces the culture, who asks questions, and he informs his Chinese classmates as well about who he is as a global learner. And that's when I knew that this immersive learning, this exchange of education is real. And the other thing that's critical in harnessing the power of immersive learning in living is that it enables us to use our 5 senses more than we just use our brain. So we smell the environment, we taste the environment, we feel the environment, we hear the environment, and it helps us better understand what it's like to be informed about another context rather than just making assumptions, which is easy to do. But I do think this high-impact practice really shapes us in ways that nothing else does. The other thing is fostering human understanding through human connections. We all have different stations in life. We all have different professional titles. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings that have more in common than not. And I think these programs and educational exchange help us to really humanize the experience, and it helps us communicate effectively. I'm an American. We're masterful at transmitting information, but I learned as a student in Brazil and in China that listening is the greatest skill that a communicator can have. And so these programs where we have education exchange hopefully allows for students to sit back and before they say something, they listen. They listen to the stories. They listen to the history. They listen to the complexity. They listen to the nuances. They share the nuances, but after first listening to somebody else be the expert on that environment and what's being shared. And I think that part about the human connection is extremely critical. It also does something that I think is very unique to education. It builds bridges and not barriers. Education is the one thing around the world that I think is a common thread. No matter where I've gone in the world, the word education and it being valued is said more times than anything else. And so for all of the educators, if there are any educators in the room, thank you. For those that value education, thank you. For those that put yourselves in situations where you learn about somebody else, thank you, because without education and without people wanting to be in this sometimes uncomfortable position, we don't have engineers and technology and business and lawyers and all of the people that make the world go round. Education is the common denominator, and I believe that educational exchange is the most important way for us to have different perspectives shared across lived experiences. The fourth thing is, the fourth thing is developing cultural competence and a global mindset. When I've fostered and facilitated experiences for students across the world, all of them had high IQ. They are really intelligent. What they learned being educated and engaging education in a different context was not about their IQ, how well they think. It was about EQ, emotional intelligence, and understanding what that means for somebody else. IQ is how well you think. EQ is how well you relate. And education exchange helps students relate to more people than I think other things do. Because you have to understand what it means for me to stand up here and know that I'm in Paris speaking to a Chinese audience from an American perspective, and all of those different things inside of me inform how I come across, inform what I need to do and what I don't need to do, and that is EQ, the emotional intelligence, and I firmly believe that that's one of the things that is the number one benefit of studying abroad and participating in educational exchange. Being smart will get somebody in the room, but having emotional intelligence will keep them in the room and ultimately open up other doors. And I think students that study across the world understand that. Last but not least, I think this is one thing that's important, and it's really changed my life: creating lifelong personal and professional bonds. The trust that's built in dormitories and in classrooms and late night discussions and early morning tea and all of these different experiences really helps students and people create bonds that are unbreakable. For the people that raise their hand, I'm sure that you're friends with somebody from that experience that you're still in contact with today that you can call for something personal or for something professional. And so the networking that takes place is critical. And I believe the networking that happens in China through student interactions in these programs will really help us solve really complex problems in our world. And it'll also give us an opportunity to think about things in a way that we never have before, because we have this wealth of knowledge that we can pull from that is beyond and outside of our own personal context. So for those that have studied abroad, thank you. For those that believe in educational exchange, thank you. For those that have young people that need to do it, I would encourage you to push them in that direction, because if nothing else, it will broaden their perspective and broaden their horizons on life, which allows us to have things like this, where we have dialogue to get to a point where we can have actionable tasks and actionable results that give us an opportunity to engage in many different ways. And so I am really excited about what I do, if you can't tell. I think that education is the soft power that allows for nations to come together, and it has been for a long time, and it always will be. So for those who are going to have high school students going into college, once again, encourage them to stretch beyond their limits. Encourage them to listen to difference. Encourage them to share their perspective, because ultimately the leaders of tomorrow are in universities today. And we want them to be informed about China, because my personal belief is that China is the future. China's history is amazing. Where China is currently is amazing. And where China is going is amazing. And if the world does not understand China today, it will miss out on a fascinating opportunity to see something that I think will only happen once in a lifetime. So again, please encourage students to do this. And I'll leave you with this. Education will not solve every problem, but it will allow us to have every conversation. And so with these dialogues, please continue to support education, support young people, and ultimately support them being the leaders that will make decisions for all of us. 谢谢大家。